Boruto has to save Sasuke now, before it's too late. And this is what Ikimoto is hinting towards, with a lot of issues that he has started to point out when it comes to the Torn Soul Bulb, its retrieval, and the consequences that appear after somebody has been saved. I think the story is pointing towards Sasuke being saved, and it has to happen as soon as possible. Because we have already been told about the Torn Soul Bulbs and the fact that they can rot even on the way to saving someone. We see this taking place when it comes to Bug. But we have also been shown the consequences if that person stays in the tree form for too long, as was shown with Moegi. This is why the next arc that we are about to embark on is going to be one dealing with Sasuke. Ryu has been taken care of, Matsuri has been taken care of, and now Mamushi, which means that Hidari and Jira are left. And with what Kashin has told us, with the plan being to dwindle the numbers down before we can reach Jira, the next one to go is Hidari. But to really understand what is happening here and the fact that Sasuke's life is genuinely at risk, we have to understand the Torn Soul Bulb and its consequences. So, in chapter 13, we were told about the Torn Soul Bulb, the fact that it can rot, but we weren't really told how fast it really could, as we saw that Jira went away quickly and brought back Hidari to life. But now we saw that this process is pretty quick. Boruto was simply talking to Kashin and the effects were quite visible, where Boruto was then forced to go to the 10,000th dimension, where he ended up fighting with Code briefly. But even in that small interactions, Bug's Torn Soul Bulb ended up rotting. However, at first glance, when we compare it to Moegi when her Torn Soul Bulb was collected, it appears a bit different at first glance. However, it actually still is the same. The process was pretty quick, because in that scenario we had Boruto who ended up defeating Matsuri quite easily, where he ended up slashing her into pieces and the Torn Soul Bulb ended up appearing. And then we saw Boruto fight versus Jira. From our perspective, that fight was pretty long as it lasted 2 chapters, and then we finally ended up seeing Moegi get her Torn Soul Bulb back. Although the time frames may appear to be quite different, in fact, I would say that it is pretty similar, due to the simple fact that our perception of how long a fight is taking is quite different than in the real series itself, as we know that these guys are moving massively faster than light when they're fighting. So the fight probably didn't even last many seconds, probably didn't even last a minute, and it was simply over due to how strong and fast these characters are. It's almost like we saw in Dragon Ball, where the fight between Goku and Frieza, the last stage of that fight before the planet was going to be destroyed, the fight was only 5 minutes. But what we actually ended up seeing was multiple different episodes where the fight ended up occurring. From our perspective, the fight seemed like it lasted more than 5 minutes, but because of how strong these characters are and how fast they move, it actually did not, and it is slowed down for us to actually be able to consume. Also, although the fight may seem like it took quite some time, it really did not. But another factor could simply be the fact that Moegi has more chakra and she is a shinobi, and thus her Torn Soul Bulb would last a little bit longer. That is not confirmed, so I will not be pushing that point to you, but a easy way to understand it is with what I mentioned previously. But this isn't the only problem. This is what we focus on. However, there is another problem. The second problem is the state in which the person is after receiving their Torn Soul Bulb, where on Moegi's case, she had several chakra problems after being saved. This is what we are told from Sakura herself. And the basic gist of it that Sakura tells us herself is that the person in the tree, his chakra is being used. The tree is feeding off that person in that state. And that is what causes all of the problems. This is why even potentially if Bug was saved, we could have seen Bug never be the same or potentially be in a coma for quite some time due to the simple fact that he is not a shinobi and he was probably the first one to be consumed when the claw grinds were made, meaning that he was probably in there for about 3 years and he has constantly been fed on by the tree. This is extremely problematic when we think about Sasuke, because Sasuke has been in that tree state for at least 3 years, which would mean that not only is the problem of getting Sasuke his torso bulb and fast after the fight concludes, but Sasuke also has to be taken out of that tree state now as quick as possible. They can't take too much time, because if he comes out, he might not be the same, as the tree may have fed on Sasuke a little bit too much. And this is exactly why Kashin Koji wanted Boruto to look very carefully at what happened to Bug after he did not receive his torso bulb, as this is what Kashin Koji wants to remind Boruto of, for him not to be careless at all. Obviously, Boruto is not actively trying to be careless, but it's additional pressure that Kashin Koji is putting on Boruto for him to really understand the situation they are in, as there is hope, but that hope is not 100% guaranteed, probably not even 50%. So Boruto has to work extremely hard, because the future is not on Boruto's side, and with Kashin Koji's ability, they have been given hope. And the hope that he has been given is twofold. One is the simple fact that Kashin Koji, as of this moment, has already seen a future where this battle takes place. We know that Hidari is going to be the main focal point of the next arc, because if you pay attention to the future panel scene that we saw Kashin Koji see after Kawaki appeared in the battle versus Jiraiya and Boruto, we see a few things take place. First, when it comes to the arc that we have just finished, we see Mamushi and we see Damon. This hinted towards this clash that was supposed to take place, as we saw where Damon was a crucial part in taking down Mamushi. But also, we see Hidari and we also see Sarada, meaning that some way, somehow, they are going to have a battle. There are obviously a few things that need to happen before then, but this is going to happen in the next arc, as just due to common sense, we see the scroll behind them being the arc we were previously in, so the one that we're about to embark on is the scroll on top that Kashin Koji is seeing. But the second thing that we learned from that scene from Kashin Koji is how exactly it is going to take place. We see that Kashin Koji told us that the main thing is not getting Jiraiya angry, where they're going to be dwindling down the numbers of the Senju before taking down Jiraiya, while making sure not to annoy him. Jiraiya is able to come to the village, he is able to read books, because nobody can really touch him, he is just that strong. And this is another crucial part of that battle. Because now that we see that there are two characters left, two Senju left, which are Hidari and Jiraiya, as smart as he is starting to see that this issue of Konoha, they are taking down his people. They can no longer be careless to the point where they allow a single Senju member to go and face off multiple high-level shinobi like Mamushi was able to do in this arc. Which means that to actually get to Hidari himself, you will have to separate him from Jiraiya. And this is what I believe that this first little sequence that we see, where we see a Jiraiya bleeding, is the first part of allowing Hidari to be taken out. As we first see a panel of Jiraiya maybe in his own dimension, but he seems to be bleeding. But when you actually check the panels that happen in that fight, we never see a Jiraiya who is bleeding in the Senju dimension, as Jiraiya healed himself using the Divine Tree root when he was still fighting versus Kawaki, so he left in perfect health. So it means that something happened where Jiraiya ended up fighting somebody of a high caliber, maybe Boruto, maybe Kawaki, maybe even Damon if he ends up helping, or potentially all three. We don't really know what was the case. But it means that Jiraiya was separated from Hidari, which allows this fight between Sarada and Hidari to even take place in the first place. This is the crucial part of what we are about to see next. How exactly is Jiraiya going to be separated from Hidari? And this definitely is the reason why we see this plan that Kashin Koji revealed to us concerning Code, as Code could be that thing that allows Hidari maybe to get a little anxious about Sarada and what Code exactly is trying to do, where he then decides to intervene, or Code captures Sarada in some way and brings them to the dimension, and Hidari is the only person there, which then prompts the separation between Jiraiya and Hidari. There are multiple ways this can play out, but this is what the early part of the next arc is going to be about. How exactly Jiraiya and Hidari are going to be separated, and this is going to be a key part of the battle. Now, the most important part is Hidari versus Sarada, as I do believe that this is going to be probably a 1v1 of the sort, maybe something different, but Sarada is going to be the main player when it comes to Hidari being taken out. And due to that being the case, especially with how strong Hidari is, and we really do not know Sarada's condition when it comes to her Mangekyo Sharingan, people need to be there as backup if something happens to Sarada where she is weakened after her fight versus Hidari, which then prompts the backup to help take Sarada back to the leaf to be treated, but also help bring Hidari's torso bulb back to Sasuke. And that is the major point, because Boruto is the only person who has the Flying Raijin mark. So will he be part of the battle to bring Jura separated from Hidari, or will he be part of the battle to defeat Hidari? That is going to be a major point of contention. So that's why Kawaki getting stronger is absolutely necessary. And we do see potential ways that this can take place. There is a talk that is going to be had between Kawaki and Amato. And that talk is going to be very important because of the various abilities that Kashin Koji has. Kashin Koji has the ability of prescience. And with this ability, Amato was able to deduce that it comes from Shibai cells. Him having this information is key. So is he going to give Kawaki Shibai cells for him to awaken a Senjutsu or become even stronger? As in the past, it did not really seem to work, as we had various Kara inners that did not have it, and the only people that did, they were locked up. So maybe Amato never really considered that possibility again. But with the new information that is coming out and him seeing how important Kashin Koji is at the moment, this is definitely a possibility that Amato has Shibai cells to give to Kawaki to make him stronger. Where him, maybe alongside Damien, I don't know how Damien is going to be if he's only going to be stuck up and doesn't want to help out. The Leaf ended up helping in saving his sister, so he definitely has to help out from now on. So it'd be very cool, especially with how Damien ended up fighting, and we saw a bit of his weakness when it comes to stamina. He has to have another fight. I don't want to see Damien stagnant and not doing anything, so he could also be part of that, where it will be a Sarada and Boruto versus Hidari like we saw in the past. That's what is going to be intriguing. But in this upcoming arc, Boruto will definitely show exactly what powers he has gotten from Momoshiki. And that's why you have to watch this video right here as I go in depth on what those abilities may be.